It is a good morning for only the second time in Jamaica's history and in the 60th year of our independence, to unveil a new series of banknotes. The governor has mentioned that approximately 3 years ago, the BOJ wrote to me to make the point that it was necessary, in their opinion, for the introduction of a $2,000 note because of issues to do with circulation and the difficulty in transacting. When people give up $5,000, change is sometimes difficult to come by. And the people who really complained were the small shopkeepers. And as a result, it was their recommendation that a new note was required. They also made the point, as has been repeated here, that the existing family of notes are open to counterfeiting that is more difficult with the technology that exists today. And they made a third point, that members of the visually impaired community, and I want to especially welcome I think it's the president of the Jamaica Society for the Blind, who is here with us this morning. Just please welcome him especially, please. Members of that community would often register the simple fact, that the features for visually impaired persons that are on our existing family of notes are not sufficiently distinct to reduce errors in the usage of those notes to an acceptable minimum. They also pointed out that at least with respect to two of our existing notes, the $500 and the $5,000, in low light conditions, people have often confused the two and exchanged them. I don't know if there's anybody here for that. I know all of you, though, would exchange the 500 for the 5,000. I know that's the side of the trade that you're on. And then finally, the existing family of notes, because they're made of something that is more approximate to paper, the natural life is shorter than the natural life that's available with technology today. You know, the world is a world of innovation, and we are not the only ones who would have had these kinds of problems. And so those on the forefront of the technological innovation some time ago came up with a new substrate, a new material that can be used in banknotes that certainly makes them more durable, makes them last longer. You heard from the governor, 50% longer, which means a reduction in costs. Across the CARICOM region, many governments have moved away from paper-based notes to polymer notes. In fact, I know Trinidad did it several years ago. The OECS countries did it a few years ago. Barbados has done it this year. So Jamaica is in good company in moving away from the existing material to this new material. Now, one of the significant advantages of doing that is that apart from all that I've mentioned, the security features, the durability, more user-friendly for the visually impaired, one of the key advantages as well is that producing an entirely new family of notes, we have been able to ensure that these notes are such that multiple banknote producers can produce them. Some of the notes that we have introduced over the past 2 decades are notes that only one specific supplier can produce. And that might have been necessary at the time, but going forward, this is certainly an improvement, and one that I think you would all welcome. Now, the opportunity that has been presented by the convergence of these factors that I've just shared created the opportunity was such that it allowed us to engage in a redesign of our banknotes without changing the existing policy for what appears on our banknotes. If we were to change the policy, that would have to have been a much longer conversation. But the existing policy that existed long before me, it's a policy that has been in place for several decades, is that we reflect on our banknotes our culture and our history, and particularly on one side of the banknotes, any face that appears is the face of a national hero or a deceased prime minister. Now, when I was growing up, well, I don't want to age myself. Let me use it. When I look on the internet, when I do my research and go to the library, Alexander Bustamante was on the $1 banknote. True? Paul Bogle was on the $2 banknote. George William, Norman Manley was on the $5 banknote. And George William Gordon was on the $10 banknote. But I bet you, none of you here remember. Let me look. Nobody here. No, nobody here remembers that Marcus Garvey was on a 50-cent note. Well, yeah, you just age yourself. No, you look at our notes and coins today. Marcus Garvey, who was on a banknote, where is he today? You don't even know. Norman Manley, Alexander Bustamante, who featured prominently on that beautiful $1 note, where is he today? George William Gordon, who lost his life on the gallows, fighting for our rights, was on a banknote. Where is he today? Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who has influenced an entire people and motivated them into action, who stands behind the achievements of black people in the 20th century, spanning continents and time zones, was on our banknotes. Where is he today? You know, when our first series of banknotes was launched, and I paraphrase, the founding ethos behind it was that a people who don't acknowledge their history will be a people, and don't acknowledge their history and acknowledge the roles played by those who came before in the freedoms and the life we enjoy today. What we will do is attribute all of our progress to foreign benefactors and not see in ourselves a people of agency, a people who are a forceful people, who are able to change our circumstances, to fight for what we believe in, to make progress, and to achieve the destiny that belongs to us. For that reason, we could no longer, while we have a policy that our national heroes are on our banknotes, we could never countenance the introduction of banknotes that does not include them. The situation that we have today on our banknotes is untenable. We have Sam Sharp, we have Nanny of the Maroons, we have Marcus Garvey on $100. And no, national heroes. And that is it. So I'm adding up correctly. We have Sam Sharp. We have Nanny of the Maroons. We don't have Marcus Garvey on a note. We have two of our national heroes represented on our notes. Our history did not begin in 1962 with just prime ministers. Our history as a people began, and all the people that make up Jamaica, began a long time ago when ships landed on our shores, some with forced transportation, others voluntary. That is our history, and that is who we are. And our banknotes must reflect that history, must reflect that struggle over generations and over centuries. Little young boys and young girls growing up see the pride on a daily basis with which we hold our history and those who fought on our behalf. So it is indeed a great honor to hold the position of Minister of Finance and Public Service at this time with the portfolio responsibilities for this matter, to see to it and to ensure that this aspect of our history is accurately represented on our notes. I use the word restoration. It's within the context of our banknotes. In the context of our banknotes, it is a restoration of the original intent that we see in the notes we use the continuous struggle of Jamaicans and the continuous struggle and achievements and progress of us as a people. Now, it is also good that we have been able to include another of our deceased prime ministers on a banknote to which he's most deserving and which fits within the policy of how our banknotes and our currencies are decorated. So with that policy, we have 7 national heroes, and we only have, thank God, 5 deceased prime ministers. 4 deceased prime ministers. And with the existing policy, that makes 11 figures. Now, how do you fit 11 figures onto 12 notes? 6 notes, 11 figures onto 6 notes. And the notes are 50, 100, 500, 100, 1,000, 2,000, and 5,000. 6 banknotes. Anybody went to school? Anybody did GSAT or common entrance? How do you fit 11 figures onto 6 notes? Let's divide 11 by 6. All right? Well, some smart person can say you could put all 10 on one note and 1 on the other. Or you could put 4 on one, etc., etc. Of course. But we want to give as much as is possible equal prominence. And if there is one to be singled out, I don't think anybody would have a problem with Marcus Garvey being that one. But by definition, it meant we had to have multiple figures on each of our banknotes, which is not unusual. That is quite common. It's quite common in the English-speaking Caribbean for sure. And if you go further afield, it happens with great regularity as well. So once you accept that you have to have 2 figures on each note, then the question becomes, how do you arrange those figures? Now, I've already spoken about that in depth in Parliament I don't think it's necessary for me to rehash that here. Anybody's interested, you can look up my budget presentation speech. We are now in the process of unveiling the notes that have been printed, and we recognize the printers, De La Rue, for the quick job they've done to turn this around. And the notes are available for you to see and feel, for you to tweet and put on your shot with it on Instagram and wherever you choose to use. I hear that if you're using Facebook now, you're dated. But I don't know if that's true or not. And I'm not, there's no advertisement for any other platform. But people seeing the notes will see the progress that has been made. Now, these notes are quite different from the notes that exist today, as we have mentioned. They feel different, they have different features. And in order for them to be in circulation, the Bank of Jamaica has to work with the existing commercial banks to ensure that the ATMs can be reprogrammed to efficiently handle these notes. And that's a process. There are thousands of ATMs in Jamaica. Each of them has to be configured to handle those notes. So as the governor mentioned, the notes will be introduced over a phased period beginning in 2023. And I think, Governor, I think people want to, by June, the latest by June 2023, but in some cases, certainly it will appear quite a bit before that. So ladies and gentlemen, you did not come here to hear from me. You came here to actually see and feel the banknotes. And I'm not going to stand between you and that experience. So good morning, and thank you for coming.
Honorable Minister, I must tell you, I've listened and I've heard you several times. But today, for the first time, you sound like a professor, taking us back down memory lane. Can you believe that? Who remember the $50 note? Who remember the $100 note? Want to welcome those of us who are viewing us online, CBX, Caribbean Business Exchange. You have joined us live. We thank you so much. And for the members of the press who are here, thank you again for coming. The purpose of today's press conference is for you, members of the press, to get the opportunity, now that we are launching, to ask us questions. What a star-studded lineup we have. To my immediate left, Gareth Evans, representing our printers, De La Rue. Thank you, sir, for coming. Beside him is Natalie Haynes. Now, Natalie is directly responsible for these banknotes. So, members of the press, any difficult question you have, Natalie will answer all the difficult questions, all right? Now, the minister is also here, and he's used to answering difficult questions, so feel free to ask him as well. I want you to be gentle, however, with my governor. Do not ask him difficult questions, all right? And beside him is Dr. Wayne. Now, Wayne is not a man who speaks a lot. He doesn't speak a lot. But you will only hear Wayne speaks if you mention inflation to him. All right? The floor is open, ladies and gentlemen. But how we're going to do this is as follows. For those among us who are here, you may indicate that you wish to speak by raising your hand, and I will, in fact, identify you and allow you to speak. For you to speak, the mic in front of you, just press it, and you will see a red light appears, and that will give you the go-ahead so to do. For those who are online and you wish to speak, you may raise your electronic hand. Once your electronic hand is raised, my colleague Melanie Law, sitting to my right, will identify and allow you to speak. And if you choose not to speak, but to submit a question, you are free as well to do so. Melanie will read your question, so we all will be able to hear not just your question, but the response. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is now yours. Sir, I recognize you. Please identify yourself and ask your question.
Good morning, everybody. Stephen Jackson from The Gleaner. I'm just wondering, how would you guys respond to concerns that you guys have gentrified the banknotes? And so in the question, you said I could ask anything. Could you guys fold or crumple the note for me?
All right, so that question sounds like one for Natalie Haynes, right? Because remember we said she'll answer all the hard questions. Natalie?
Because if I'm hearing that you're not supposed to crumple or fold the notes, then it raises a very fundamental question. Who was a focus group? And if we understand the economy to be cyclical, it's going to go through conductors, the hands of conductors who fold the notes longitudinally, and it's going to go through market hands who are going to crumple the note to try to prevent theft. Now, when you go on the sites, so I went on the Bank of Canada's site, it says, do not crumple, do not fold these notes. And it raises the question I asked a while ago, is the Bank of Jamaica gentrifying banknotes? Because this is not Jamaican appropriate.
All right. Good morning, everyone.
Respectfully.
Yeah. So, Mr. Jackson, gentrify. I've never heard the banknotes being described as such, but actually, it's going to be an education process for the Jamaican people, because I can tell you the current banknotes that can be folded or crushed, when those are redeemed to Bank of Jamaica, we have to destroy them, because those notes will not adhere to our clean note policy to reissue to the public. So again, that is what is causing the increase in cost. For the polymer, we encourage, and the communication program will be there, do not crush and do not fold and do not put graffiti on the banknotes. That's a thing that we have been pushing from ever since. We may need to just put out that campaign. So we don't want, even with the old notes, we don't want you to fold. We don't want you to crush them, because when they come in, we have to destroy them. They are not fit for recirculation.
How would you recommend a conductor hold money now? Well, I know that eventually JUTC is going to go cashless.
We'll have focus groups in terms of that going forward. Before, remember I said, no, we're not ready to issue it. Right. So after this launch, then the full communication program goes into high gear before we actually issue to the public.
Right. So under the regular, so this is supposed to, these notes are supposed to last, what, 50% longer,
50%
right?
longer, yes.
But if they're folded, they last half the time.
No.
So if you fold it, what does the film come off? How is it?
No. The film is in. It's a polymer.
Can you just demonstrate and just fold one?
I don't have one here. We have one with you, Garrett. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Stephen, the purpose of today is that you can go and fold it for yourself. You're going to be able to see it. So we don't have to. We can give opportunity to other people to ask some questions. But suffice to say, the reason, notice the approach that's been taken. Today's function is to show you the banknotes. The banknotes have been printed and they're ready. We have an option, or the BOJ has an option. They have the banknotes. They could start rolling them out on January 1st. But instead, what are they doing? They're putting in place a transition period that would allow for focus groups with the kind of persons that you mentioned. I mean, obviously, I highlighted the ATM configuration, but focus groups so that, this is a process where people have an opportunity, certainly representatives of people, it can't be every single taxi driver, but representatives have an opportunity to interact with it before.
Taxi drivers fold it that way conductors fold it longitudinally, and it seems that the most delicate spot is longitudinal.
Yeah, so I think they'll be able to
They're very pretty though.
they'll be able to speak for themselves.
Okay.
When you get your CC license plate, you can join the conversation. Your red plate, rather.
Yeah. I've
So
applied.
that Natalie has a note, a physical note. Could you just scramble? Yeah, yes, and just so that the press can see.
That's good to see.
This is how you said it, the conductors fold it. And they have something like this, right? This is the note.
Garrett?
Actually, it looks very ugly now, and you're damaging. You're actually damaging my notes there, so I am going to go on a campaign to try and tell people, do not do this to the notes. Do not mark the notes, no. Because it's going to defeat our purpose over time, eh? Okay.
Good morning, everybody. If I could just add to that, I'll echo Mrs. Haynes' comments there about taking care of the currency and not deliberately folding, or if you can, for cotton, paper money, as well as polymer. How we measure note life around the world, and there are countries using polymer all over the world, is from a time the notes are put into circulation to the time the central bank removes that from circulation for not being fit for purpose. Bank of Jamaica is targeting 50% increase. What we see around the world using all the data is the average is 2.5 times the note life. And that is including all different circulation environments, different handling conditions, people that fold their notes on buses, people that don't, people that screw them up and put them into aprons, people that don't. And the data tells us that these banknotes last a lot longer before they have to be removed to circulation, irrespective of how they are treated.
I have a question here. This question says, the time period stated between January to June 2023 seems a bit long. What can be done to shorten the time period, as well as guide us with the education campaign that will be launched?
All right. We don't think the time period is long. I mean, I have my JB representative here, and she will tell you that they're killing us to say that is even too short to have all the ATMs across the island. And remember now, it's not just the ATMs. We have persons, we have Bank of Jamaica, and we have our rep here, Vinny from Guardsman Group, we're Beryllium, who process banknotes, not only for Bank of Jamaica, but for the commercial banks. Their machines to process banknotes have to be retrofitted, so that's going to take time. Our machines within Bank of Jamaica have to be retrofitted to actually process the notes to identify whether it's a genuine note or not, whether it's a good note or not. Then now, the person mentioned communication. That is going to take time. We have to look at, as Stephen said, the market vendors, the taxi operators, the bus crew, anyone who use cash on a large basis. We have to target those persons. Initially, we targeted the Society for the Blind because we know of a specific problem, and that feature has to be in the printing of the banknote. We had to sign off on that before Delarue started printing. So we engaged them from early on. And I hasten to say that there, Mr. Harris, you're very pleased. Hold up your hand. Very pleased with the banknotes. So it is 6 months may seem long, but it is not. It is not.
Javon, please.
Good morning, everyone. Javon Keys, Television Jamaica. So I have two questions. The first one, I mean, we've been hearing that the new notes will last approximately 50% more longer than the current ones. But in actual terms, what does that look like? How long on average do we have the current notes lasting? So that could give us an idea of what the 50% more would look like.
Right, so it depends on the denomination. The current notes on average last for about 2 years.
And the second question, a number of businesses have UV lights, for instance, to check the integrity of the current notes. Will that facility still work with the new notes?
Yes, there are specialist UV features in the notes that will be able to be identified with the UV light.
Thank you. Any other question? Yes, sir. Please identify yourself and ask your question.
Hi, morning everyone. Andrew Blakely, Jamaica Observer. So I was just wondering, how much do you think you are going to be able to save because you won't have to print new notes so frequently? Can you quantify that for us?
The actual data we do have, Andrew, but I don't have it here for me. But just to say, I can tell you, normally we print banknotes every year. We just signed off on our budget for next year, and there's no provision for the printing of banknotes for next year. Just to give you an idea that we don't expect to be ordering every year. So just think, I mean, it's out in the public domain. The governor has said it. It costs an average before 1.4 billion to print banknotes each year. Just think of that savings that we won't have to do next year. And who to tell, maybe 2024, right, Gareth?
Not for me.
Yeah. Gareth, what?
I just wanted to ask a quick one. Is it more expensive to print these polymer notes vis-a-vis the notes that we had before, and just how much more expensive is it to print these ones?
All right, so yes, because the substrate polymer, it's more expensive than the cotton that we have been printing most of our notes on. So, and the security features, enhanced security features, especially on the high value notes, that's the 1, 2, and 5,000 notes, those are going to be at a higher cost. But what we see is over time, looking into the medium term, we will have cost savings. So initially, as with any new thing, it is going to be more. Plus, remember, we are seeking over time to replace the old notes. So the stock that you have to order initially is going to be much larger than what we would normally order per year.
Thank you.
Want
For
to
those
add
of,
anything,
oh,
Gareth?
sorry. You're fine? For those of you who wish to ask a question going forward, if you're not close to a mic, we ask that you get close to one. The viewers online, they're asking that we do this to ensure that they can, in fact, participate by hearing the questions being asked. Please, go right ahead.
Trisha Ferguson from Bridge 99 FM. So on a matter of security and fraud, how secure are these notes in comparison to what is presently in the market?
Security, how secure are these notes relative to what's out there in the market?
Okay, so relative to the current notes, they're a huge leap forward. The current series has been in circulation now for some time. Technology has moved on quickly, as Deputy Governor said earlier on. And what we see around the world is that moving to polymer significantly reduces counterfeits. If you take the Bank of England, for example, as short ago as before their polymer journey, they were up around 100 counterfeits per million banknotes in circulation. Since the introduction of polymer, they've dropped down to 23 counterfeits per million. Bank of Canada has a similar story as well. And the security features that are used on the new Jamaica banknotes are cutting edge, very similar to the new features on Bank of England and Bank of Canada. So we would expect a similar level of counterfeit protection.
And welcome the bridge to Bank of Jamaica. Good to have the newest radio station here with us. You're still broadcasting across the diaspora, I take it. So folks in New York and others will in fact be picking this up at a later time. Excellent. Good. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Siobhan Campbell,
the mic
Nationwide.
is not, oh,
Siobhan Campbell,
just give us 1 second, Siobhan. Yes. Yes, please go ahead now.
And security features. Is it possible to detail what exactly the new features would look like, or what exactly that entails, the state-of-the-art security features?
For those, before you answer, Deputy Governor, for those who are online, the question really concerns the security features. What are they like? And that's the question that was posed to us, which Natalie Haynes will now answer.
Thank you. All right, so those security features that will be part of the public education campaign, we are actually printing flyers now as we speak to say what the security feature on the front of the note, the back of the note for each of the 6 denominations. So that will be in starting next year when we go live with the public education campaign. So stay tuned.
Yeah, you have a follow-up question? Yeah, please.
And are we still not privy to how much it costs to actually print the new notes?
You see, you put me in problems here, and Delarue is here, right? So, no, that's part of a contractual arrangement, and I could not divulge terms of a contract with a third party. We went through this before, the minister, we went through this before.
Right, but then I would like to ask then, why configure the contract in such a way that it cannot be disclosed to the public? Because I think people would like to know.
Remember now, Bank of Jamaica is not the only client for Delarue, right?
Right.
Delarue is seeking to source business all over the world, right? So when you disclose those terms, it may be to Delarue's disadvantage in negotiating with other parties. And also ours, as my minister says.
Minister, would you like to add? Minister?
I've written extensively about it.
Yes. So there were 2 op-ed articles in the Gleaner, Sunday Gleaner, so it's there.
Any other questions? Yes, please, Jefferson. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Campbell from Nationwide.
Just a follow-up on my friend there. I have a question to Mr. Evans specifically. Is it industry standard not to disclose the cost to print the notes? And why do you stick to that standard?
Yes, it is industry standard. I think if you look, every banknote contract, production contract that we will have a confidentiality clause in it, and we do not disclose the prices.
Yes, Jefferson.
I wanted to ask, how long do we plan on keeping the old notes in circulation, and is there the intent at some point to remove them as legal tender?
Okay, so when we start issuing early next year, both notes will remain legal tender, the new notes and the old notes. As the commercial banks redeem the old notes to us, we will not be reissuing. So we're giving people over time. We don't want everybody to rush to the commercial banks or to Bank of Jamaica to exchange. So it's going to take some time until we take that decision to say, no longer legal tender. And of course, for it not to be legal tender, we have to go through a process in terms of the gazetting and so. So you'll get full notice, but during that time, both will remain legal tender.
Sure. Do you have a timeline in mind yet?
It depends on, say, for example, all the banks are ready, all the machines are ready. I would say probably give it 1 to 2 years after. So the public, so it can come in over time and be exchanged over time.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. I think I already know the response, but what's the impact on inflation for all the notes? And secondly, in particular, the $2,000 bill? Because, within the introduction, then you might actually say things that used to be maybe $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 now being priced at $2,000. What's the likely impact? What does the literature say, and what do you think?
Once you mention the word inflation, I'm going to give that
Yeah, the straight up answer is no, or very negligible. Yes, there may be some threshold pricing, but we think that already happens anyway, so we don't expect an impact.
Any other question? Anything online? No, nothing else? All right, Al, you look like you're fine? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much. It's time for us now to invite Natalie Haynes, who has been answering most of your questions. After all, she is the currency guru, and she will offer us now at this time the closing remarks. Wanna say again, we anticipate if you have further questions, feel free to call us, WhatsApp us, email us, just contact us, and we'll be more than happy to facilitate. Natalie Haynes with her closing remarks.
Is it still morning? Good morning again. What is left to be said? I mean, all the speakers, they have said it all. The Q&A, I think we answered most, if not all, of your questions. But in closing, I want to thank, first of all, our Minister of Finance, Dr. the Honorable Nigel Clark. Thank you so much, Minister. Personally, to thank you in terms of your support on this venture. Governor Biles, again, thank you for your support in these banknotes. SDG Robinson, thank you, and thank you for your remarks. Recognizing again, and just thank them for being here and making the time to come. The persons from the Society for the Blind, Conrad Harris and Kamika Brathwaite, thank you so much for taking the time out, and we will continue to partner as we move forward in the communication campaign. I want to recognize other colleagues from the Ministry of Finance. Thank you for being here. Delarue, Gareth and Howard, no words need to be said. Thank you so much for your full support. Audrey Tugwell Henry, representative of the JBA, she's here. Thank you so much, Audrey, for being here. Vinay from the Guardsman Group, another partner for us in terms of cash in transit, courier, and processing of banknotes. Thank you so much for being here, Vinay. And of course, I want to extend my support and my appreciation to my currency staff. They are at the back there to answer all your questions. Thank you so much. Give thanks to the communications team. Noel, you and your team, thank you for this. The presentations look fabulous, right? The staff of the facilities management team and our IT teams for the support in putting together this press briefing. And of course, last but by no means least, the press. You are going to be our champions in terms of disseminating information, whether by traditional media or social media. So I expect to go on my Twitter as I leave here and see blowing up with all of for the new banknotes. Thank you for being here. I want to reiterate, issuance will start next year. Please don't pressure us. You know, we have to allow the banks to do their things. You don't want, when you go to the smart ABMs and you're putting in the new banknotes, it's rejecting it. You don't want that. So let us do it right, okay? And of course, the communication, you will be notified when that program starts in earnest. Noel and his team are busy putting together that in terms of social media, radio, television, flyers, billboards, you name it, we'll do it. And so that leaves me to wish you all a very Merry Christmas on behalf of Bank of Jamaica. Please keep safe. And I now invite you to go and you can view the banknotes here. These in the cases are live notes, what we call live. While we have some specimens at the back that, Stephen, you can go and crush and fold and do everything that you want and do your testing. And of course, after you do that, spend some time with us for meet and greet and have some refreshments. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Natalie. Just to answer a question that just came in, what we have just seen will be available on our respective channels, YouTube in particular, and as well as our BOJ website. So the press briefing will be available online shortly, if not immediately. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing these notes. Yeah, well done, sir.